What's up, Vankas? This is the Red Flags brought to you by BetMGM. Before we get into this amazing episode with the king of YouTube F1 content, Tommo, we got to tell you about our live show that's happening in Austin, baby. Sunday night, October 20th, 9 p.m., doors at 8 at the Vulcan Gas Company on 6th Street. If you are at the Austin GP, you better be at our live show. The link is in the description. Get it while they're hot because tickets are going faster than Lando Norris in the McLaren, baby. And to some of you that you're like, no, it's not even fast. Shut the fuck up. It's fast. It's fast, okay? It's fast. All right. Enough spilling of my soul. onto our show with Tommo.
What's up, bankers?
Hello, bankers.
How is everybody doing?
How are you doing? Are you surviving? Are you surviving this time off? Well, guess what? If you're struggling, we're about to feed you. You know, this is what the kids say. Feed me, daddy. Feed me. We're about to feed you with the king of F1 YouTube. We got Tommo on.
Wait, Brian, do it. Do it. Do the impression.
You know what, Tommo? We got Tommo here?
Okay.
Wait.
I'm ready for this.
Wait, this is my fault. This is my fault. I want to take full accountability for pimping Brian right now, for making him do it. But do it, Brian.
It's Tommo. Let's talk about it.
What do we think?
What do you? Come on!
I'm getting a bit of Downton Abbey, a bit too much Downton Abbey from that, bro.
All right. It's Tommo. Hold on.
Do you know where the accent is? Like relative to the UK, because we've got a lot of accents going on over here.
Well, we're talking about your background. So yeah, where is the accent from? It was a great.
Wait,
segue.
hold on. Let me guess. It's not. It's not north. You're not giving me what's
Manchester. It's not.
Yeah. You're not
Manchester.
giving Manchester. It's giving kind of, I would say, east of London is where it's giving me.
Okay, well done. Bravo, Brian. Bravo.
It's almost it's not quite Essex, but it's kind of in that in that direction.
So ex Sky Sports F1 pundit Johnny Herbert, ex F1 driver Johnny Herbert, he's from the same little part of northeast London as I am. So there you go.
Okay.
Ooh, where in London are you from?
So I'm from Romford, which is like on the outskirts, northeast corner. I'm a little bit further out now. I'm actually living right now in the town of Ollie Behrman. The zone, Romford is zone 4.
Yes, so, my girlfriend lives in zone 4, and I didn't know what that meant until I tried to take a train into central London. I was like, this really sucks. I'd rather be in zone 3, zone 2.
I mean, there is a zone 4 on the opposite side of London, bear in mind.
Right.
So,
yes.
You want to make sure you go in the right direction, but you could get caught out.
She lives in Fry and Barnet. Do you know where that is?
Oh, yeah, that's miles away from the... Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard of it, but it's a mile off. It's a mile off.
Yeah, okay.
Well, now that we know your precise location,
I was just saying, do you want postcode? Do you want address?
What's the closest grocery store to you? Yeah, we can get into it. No, we've got. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. I'm sorry to immediately be pimped into butchering your accent in front of you, but I've listened to I've watched so many of your videos, and you have that phrase, and it hits it at the start, and I go, you say, let's talk about it, and I go, you're right, let's talk about it. So I think we should talk about this season of Formula One so far. I mean, there's been so... let's start here. Did you have any idea going into this year that we were going to have the type of season that we had? Were you at all expecting this?
Look, I think you look back at the history of the sport and how when we get new regulations, typically the field kind of spreads because some teams nail it and some teams don't. I mean, remember the start of Ground Effect. Alfa Romeo, Sauber were actually all right, and now they're nowhere. It can go both ways. But I felt like, give it a couple of years and we should be in a good place. And 22, obviously, Ferrari and Red Bull was a bit there. And then obviously, Red Bull just checked out and Max in 23. I can't say I'm surprised, But obviously, the way that Max was just walking it last year, it was hard to feel like it was hard to see the light at the end of the domination tunnel. It doesn't matter what driver's dominating. At the end of the day, like the neutral fan just wants to see competition, and we weren't getting that last year. I can't say I'm surprised, but it was a long time coming. I think the teams took too long to catch up, especially, I mean, Ferrari, Mercedes still haven't really caught up. The fact it's McLaren doing the catching up as well is crazy. I wasn't expecting that.
But we weren't, but it's not like they caught up at the beginning of 2024. Like, he was also dominating for the first 5 races or 6 races in 2024. Have you ever seen a sort of regime change or vibe shift like at this awkward time in a season? Have you ever seen this before, where a team goes from like utterly dominant to just falling off like a quarter of the way through the season?
Yeah, I think, Red Bull were in a situation where Max was driving around any problems because he was just that good and still is that good. And you've got McLaren bringing the upgrade. It almost makes me think of was it Williams, when it was BMW Williams and it had Kubica at the wheel? I think it was like 2008, I want to say. And they were like, oh, we'll just, we'll be fine. We'll be fine for the rest of this year. Let's just like sack off the rest of 2008 because we're already cooking and focus on 2009. Kubica's like, what are you doing? Like, I've got a great chance at a title here. And then they fucked up 2009. So it didn't pay off for them in the end. But in terms of top team, I mean, no one really kind of comes to mind. It's the combination of the Red Bull fall off with this like upgrade that didn't upgrade things. Because it's not just that McLaren are now beaten. Like, Max was finishing, behind Ferraris, behind Mercedes, like all of a sudden. It's kind of the perfect storm of things. Not just everyone catching, but like them kind of stumbling somewhat at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, the season that comes to mind, I mean, we have 2008 to us is like, what happened? We know the Lewis what, but this is so before the season that immediately comes to my newer fan dumb brain is 2009 with Braun, where Braun just was there, and then the second half of the season was like, is anyone going to catch them? Because then they were nowhere for that second half. But that was also different because it was this ragtag team that happened to get one thing right when everyone else.
They had no budget to upgrade the car, did they?
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And so that explains why whereas the context of Red Bull is they're not short of cash and there's no budget cap anymore. So
but the phenomenon is the same between Button and Max. Like, can these guys
it's the catching,
just hold on? Yeah.
But
do you think Lando will catch him? Early doors, lads? Do you think Lando will catch Max?
I do, but I'm Delulu. I'm a Delulu Lando guy.
No, but do you think it will happen? Not want it to. Do you think it actually
No,
will?
I think it'll happen because I think that the Red Bulls will not. I think that McLaren is so good that I think that Lando wins 3 of these next 6, at least. And I think that Max like has a few where he's in like 6th, 7th, and then all of a sudden that gap gets smaller and smaller. So
Sprints as well?
I think it. Yeah, sprints as well. I think it definitely comes down to Abu Dhabi, and I think that I give it over 50-50 that.
Well, I think all right. So I have 2 thoughts. I think Red Bull is bringing an upgrade for Coda. I think so. We'll see if that does anything. If that does anything, I think it's over. But I've also I just seen too many things go wrong with McLaren. Like, if they got to get 9 things out of. If they got to get 10 out of 10 on the test, they're not going to do it. But I guess maybe they don't have to. I've never seen Lando just win a fucking, we've talked about this on the pod before, but I've never seen him win. Like, he either wins by 1,000,000 miles. He gets his 3 wins. His win in Zandvoort, he won by 1,000,000 miles. His last one was by 1,000,000 miles. And Miami just kind of fell in his lap. I want to see him win. I want to see him win a 50-50. I want to see him take a race, like a hard one that was up for grabs, and he just kind of grabs it. Like in American football, we talk about there's a fumble and a bunch of guys dive on it, and he comes up with the football. Like, it's always somebody else that comes up with those races. McLaren never seems to do it, so that's why I just have my skepticism. But where do you land?
I think Austria was going to be that race, and that contact, it's so unlucky. Like, for them both to get the damage that they did, and it's such marginal contact. Like, that was the race where Lando was, he was going for it, and whether he'd got the move done or not, he shouldn't have let Max back through. He said that afterwards, it was a bit of a rookie mistake letting Max back through like he did in the sprint. And, you say about McLaren, are they... This organisation, it's just a bunch of people making decisions at the end of the day. As long as McLaren are learning from these things and these mistakes that they have made on a number of occasions. I mean, you think Canada, you would just, as soon as that, safety car notification pops up for your Lando, like, bring it in. Like, surely that, you think in hindsight, that's kind of, it seems the obvious decision to make, but they didn't for whatever reason. And it's like, they're not used to being, the personnel who are at that team, when they last won a constructors was 1998, and when they last won a drivers was 2008. So it's not the same people anymore. It might be the same name above the factory, but it's completely different personnel. These people have not experienced winning before, and they've got to get used to that.
Right.
Yeah, do you think, I feel like now maybe it's like, that's been it, and now the last couple races, I'm like, maybe I'm seeing that they're getting used to it. They're starting to think a little bit more like, no, these are all of our races to lose. That mentality shift, I believe is like happened now, or is more on the happening side than the not. So that's what gives me the kind of belief that these last 6 races, they will kind of continue that. And I think that McLaren had even more pace than we even saw in Singapore. I think that, like, he won by 20 whatever seconds, but there was more pace to be had there.
Okay, I got a big question now. Let's say he does do it. Let's say Lando does it. Where does that put him? Because now he's joined some elite company of one-time World Drivers Champions. If he where does this rank for you in term? Because, if you're looking at one-time world champions, you have a bunch of them, obviously, but the one that really comes to mind is Keke Rosberg, right? Where it's like, whoa, that was a freak season. That I put that one way down, because Ferrari should have won that one that year. Villeneuve died tragically, and then Pironi could have had that one, and then he got both his legs broken, and then he was literally Rosberg was racing against a guy in a hospital. So that's way down there. And then you have Nico Rosberg, who won one off of Hamilton, where I don't know where you rank him. Where do you put Lando in that Rosberg one time? And then you have Kimi Räikkönen, who stole one off of the warring
McLarens.
McLarens. Where would you put it in the Rosberg continuum? I'm going to call it.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because a lot of people do. When you look at the Rosberg season, Lewis's engine blew up in was it Sepang or China or wherever it was, and they'll you look at the instances of luck. I mean, everyone does that about 2021, right? Not just Abu Dhabi, but when Lewis did the engine brake magic, whatever it was, as Azerbaijan. People will look back and find reasons to discredit whoever wins it, whether it's Lando or Max. I think if Lando turns it around, it does require. It requires Oscar to beat Max more than once, multiple times. It requires, Ferraris, them to take points off Max, maybe the Mercedes as well. I think it so much depends on that context. From what we've seen so far this season, I think it has been you've got to say, that gap, Max and Lando, since Miami, I think it was 53 points at Miami, and now it's 52, whatever. So, given the hardware that McLaren have developed, by the way, no one else developed that. It's McLaren who've developed that car. It's a team sport, and both Lando has missed opportunities, and the team have let their driver down on a number of occasions as well. I think it really does just depend on how these next races go and how Lando does win it, if he does win it. Is it he beats Max and Oscar because if they won 2, all of the remaining races, Lando wins it quite comfortably. Realistically, is that going to happen? It takes one DNF, it takes one bit of bad luck from Max. I think the way Max drove in Singapore, in my opinion, that drive in Singapore won him the championship this year because that was odds on that was going to be a stinker for Red Bull. And lo and behold, he puts it P2 in qualifying, drives a comfortable, clean race and brings the points home. That was a champion's drive for me. And I think it's going to take some craziness for Lando to get it done. If he does, though, I mean, that's huge. That's so clutch. But is it luck? Does it come through luck? It really does depend. I'd love to say Matt, but
yeah, I think it's how it happens. I think because honestly, I'm a Lando guy, but like it doesn't feel like he's really deserves it right now. But if he goes out there and dominates and has this great like final bit of the season and the clutch moments where it matters the most, then maybe the narrative changes. But yeah, it hasn't felt like when Max and Lewis were battling in 21. Despite even if you hated Max, you could recognize that like both these guys deserved it that year. You could argue that. And I think most people would argue
absolutely.
That. Right now, it doesn't necessarily feel like Lando deserves it. So I think
Max has taken more of the opportunity than Lando has, basically.
Totally, 100%. Venkers, as you know, we have teamed up with BetMGM this season, and we are using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks. And if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code DADDY and you will get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here is how it works. You download the BetMGM app and you sign up using the bonus code DADDY, because we're fun. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use the bonus code DADDY when you sign up. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code DADDY and get your first $1,500 first bet offer today. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY for New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP for Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 for Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF for Indiana. 1-800-981-0023 for Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code DADDY and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Now back to the show.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys that have won. It's Farina, Hawthorne, Phil Hill, John Surtees, Denny Holm, he's a New Zealander, Jochen Rindt, James Hunt, Mario Andretti, Jody Scheckter, Alan Jones, KK Rosberg, Nigel Mansell, Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve, Kimi Räikkönen, Jenson Button, and Nico Rosberg. So where does that put him? Where does this?
It's crazy that Mansell only has one. I mean, that's kind of
crazy.
Yeah.
I think talent-wise, look, Button was a great driver, but he doesn't he got that brawn at the right time. Honda done all the work, put all the work into that car. Financial crisis comes. There's such a if Honda had stayed in and then finance that team to the end of the season, that would have been a cakewalk of a season, no question. The resources were there. I think Lando he's more talented than Jenson. Prime Jenson, I put Lando above that. I think Lando's over a lap as well. I think Lando, that's one of his biggest strengths, arguably. I think over a lap. I guess it's the mindset for me. I don't know if he's got that winner's mentality.
So you stick Lando and McLaren with Lewis Hamilton, you think he's doing better than Jenson Button?
I think that the thing is, when Button and Hamilton were teammates, they both had very, very different driving styles. And it really does depend. I think we saw this with Ricciardo most recently, right? He was unreal in that 14 Red Bull. That car absolutely fitted him down to the ground, right? Even the 2020 Renault he was decent in, but these ground effect cars just never really worked for his inherent style. Lando's only ever driven a McLaren, so it's hard to say would he adapt to a different style of car. That's why that when people are saying, "Oh, you're running from a fight, not moving to Red Bull," I'm like, hang on, he's got to play to the chance of Red Bull giving him a car that works for him when he knows what he can get from a McLaren. It was a no-brainer for him to stay.
And we also saw what, Danny Rick, who liked that Red Bull car, and then when he got in that McLaren car, he was like, what the hell is even that? This is front end, back end kind of thing. But the other, this also brings the question of, does Lando only ever win one? Which right now, if he wins one at all. The other big story of this year, Oscar Piastri has, thrown his hat into the ring. What are your, next year, they're going to be racing together for a while. It seems like he's risen to performance faster than Lando did, and he's gotten to that spot. Do you think that it's kind of an inevitability that he kind of overtakes him, kind of a la Verstappen and Ricciardo, or what do you see in between that dynamic from this year?
Yeah, I mean, look, if I had to put money on it, I would say that Oscar will become a more complete racing driver than Lando. I think that Lando is quicker than Oscar right now. He's more experienced, and we're seeing that in the long stints. But that mentality that Oscar has is just, I think that is gold dust, because for him to be so measured and so relaxed and so like, if you could take Oscar's approach and combine it with Lando's ability, I think you've got a pretty perfect driver. But I think it's going to be harder because I think that's just who Oscar is. That's just him. That's his character, his personality. I think Oscar can work on that one lap pace, and he can work on those kind of fine nuances in his style. When he was in F2, his old Prema engineers, they rated him as good, if not better, than Charles Leclerc. Like, he was coming into F1 with some serious people giving him some serious plaudits. So I feel like it's easier to expect Oscar to develop that little bit more pace than it is to expect Lando to, shift his mentality, which I don't think is but I think to succeed at the very top of any sport, it doesn't matter who it is, like, just having that absolute killer instinct is hard to come by.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of people like to compare Oscar to Kimi Räikkönen. They're like, oh, he's Gen Z Kimi, and I forgot, so I think someone in the race brought this up, and if you read about Kimi's life, they're actually not that similar. They both are monotone and they're chill, but Kimi liked to drink. He liked the drink. He liked to go, he enjoyed other aspects of life. I think that's part of the reason that he didn't maintain that level, is I think he just had it. I mean, we saw what he did after he crashed out of Monaco. He went straight to his yacht. I don't think Oscar Piastri is walking to a yacht after he crashes out anytime soon. I think that guy is more dialed in than Kimi was by the time he got to that level. So I think there are differences. I think he has that sort of metronomic. I think he's got Kimi's affect, but I think it goes even deeper than that.
Yeah, I think
it's almost a disservice to Oscar.
I agree that they're more different than on face value, sure, but Kimi was. I literally, what was it? A couple of weeks ago, I was producing a pod with a guy called Mark Arnold, who used to be Kimi Räikkönen's performance coach, and he was like, Kimi didn't want him fucking with his head. That's literally what he said. He was like, Kimi didn't want him going anywhere near his mentality or any of that. He just wanted him to help with his physical training. Whereas Mark Arnold also worked with Seb Vettel and Mika Hakkinen, and they because Seb was so into the data, into the nuances, trying to find any possible way of gaining an advantage. Mika Hakkinen was much more similar to Seb in that regard. Kimi was just leave me alone. I just want you to get me in a cryo chamber so that I recover well. But other than that, get out of my head. I think Oscar he's got Mark Webber in his corner. That's so valuable because he's been through it, innit? He's been there, done that.
Yeah. Do you see that? I mean, these are the kind of the rumors were that, there was a Mark Webber sized man standing in front of Team Orders. Are you that seems to be the explanation, right? Is that Mark Webber was absolutely not.
I mean, I can understand why. It makes sense, doesn't it? Because Multi 21, he was literally on the receiving end of one of the most high profile, blow-ups of Team Orders in recent memory. So you would think that if anyone, I don't necessarily think Mark was like, kick the door in Zach Brown's office, be like, hang on, I'm not going to do an Australian accent. I can't. Oh, he's a bit. He could. I'm not saying he couldn't do it. He absolutely could. I feel like he probably just subtly instilled this inner belief and confidence in Oscar, because when Oscar went for that movie, like, bro, he will be. Sorry, I need to take back this word. He will be a wanker if he needs to be. It's a very important word to me, wanker. It's well thrown around in British schools, and I feel like Gunter's taken his own slant on it, and I want to it can be a wanker or a vanker, but I suppose you couldn't call a show Wanker Hours. That wouldn't. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure that get past TOS.
That's right. Well, that's why we put the V in there. It's
it makes sense.
You hide your vegetables.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like Mark Webber got close in that first year, didn't he?
Very close.
He very close. Fucking close. And then once Vettel got it, he was the golden child, and it wasn't like, hey guys, we're resetting. Remember, Webber got close, so it was like
maybe that's why Ricciardo left, because he saw what happened to Webber prior to him, and was like, oh, writing's on the wall with Max, I'm going to go to Renault. Maybe.
But is it also maybe why Webber is like, you cannot let Lando win this championship? If he wins one, there's no, in his experience, there's no like, okay, everybody's equal next year. It's like, no. I'll slash his tires if I have to. Lando cannot win this world championship.
Yeah, it's a little hard, I think, to like once the cat's out of the bag to put it back in there. If Lando does take this, I think it does change an aspect of the dynamic going in. I'm trying to think of like, honestly, the thing that comes to mind for me is that Fernando Alonso came into McLaren as the 2-time reigning champion, and then rookie, Lewis Hamilton comes in, and then. You can believe what you want to believe, but it's what I think is that they were leaning towards Lewis, and Fernando saw that writing on the wall as well there. So that feels like the only thing that comes to my mind of like, yeah, they were both battling for it, or honestly, or Rosberg with Hamilton those couple of years. But he was more of like a seasoned vet at that point. They were both seasoned vets. I feel like if Lando does take this year, if he pulls this off. Does that change the culture of the garage going into next year?
I'm not convinced it does. I think Oscar's been very unlucky a number of times this year, and if he's on the and of course Lando's had his. I think he was very unlucky in Austria, for example. That should have been big points, I think, for Lando. Really, I think. You never want to make it easy for the team to prioritise one drive. You always want to at least make that. If you're in Oscar's position, and Lando's the one going for the title because he's ahead on points, and it makes logical sense. But you don't want to make it easy for the team to even subconsciously preference Lando in. It could be the smallest decisions. It's not necessarily these big, high profile multi 21 or giving Sebastian Mark's front wing or whatever it was, those are big, high profile. These could be tiny little decisions in strategy meetings, engineering meetings that could just slightly favour to, and you can't, because as soon as that goes, then it's a slippery slope, like you say. So but I don't think Lando winning the title this year would because McLaren know, Oscar's already shown us, he could go toe to toe with Lando and beat him, and he's prepared to play the team game, but they would be, because he's putting himself front and centre, isn't he, Oscar? If McLaren fuck him over, someone else is snapping him up. I mean, I'm sure Christian Horner's sniffing all around, because if he sees an opportunity to snipe Oscar, then he's got to take it.
Vankas, not only does Cash App sponsor our favorite perfectly branded Formula One team, but they also make it easier for you to save money so you can do things that you love, like going to an F1 race. Boobies. Listen, to be honest, we thought that Cash App was just a way to send people money, right? You just send people money. Hey, Cash App me. Okay, I got you. But actually, it's a faster and simpler way to bank. You can start saving with as little as $1 with no hidden fees, no minimum balance requirements, and no account fees. Minimum balance requirements is crazy. It's just let me live. And Cash App lets you do that. And we all know that overdraft fees make no sense. Why are you charging someone if they don't have any money? Plus, when you deposit $300 or more in paychecks, you can get up to $50 in free overdraft coverage. It pays to get paid on Cash App. So go download the app today. Now back to the show. Okay, we talked about McLaren. Now Red Bull. This season, what the hell? What does this season like mean for the future of this team? Like, where do you see everyone's fleeing like rats on a sinking ship? I mean, like this downfall going into next year. They're with the power unit issue. Not next year, but 26 with the power unit question marks. Like, where are you seeing this year as its effect on Red Bull going forward?
All great dynasties come to an end one day, don't they? Like the Roman Empire, it's just collapsed in on itself. Jos Verstappen's kind of chirps it in the background saying, I knew this would happen. He did warn us, like, to be fair, he did. And I think keeping people...
I knew this house would burn down as he's like, spreading gasoline everywhere.
Pouring gasoline everywhere,
Oh no, what a surprise. I think like Toto has said, when Mercedes were winning again and again, it is to keep people motivated and keep people, wanting to pursue and push forward. It's hard. Like, people are going to want new challenges at some point. People are going to switch off, and I think that they had their moment. I think the Newey news in particular was kind of damning. I think. I don't know, again, if I had to put money on it, I'm putting Max being in either a Mercedes-powered car in 26. Like, absolutely. And that was... Imagine saying that at the start of the year. And it's just how quickly things can change in this sport. But there's just so much politics in there. There's like all this decision around Ricardo Lawson, Hadjar, and you've got so many different factors going on. And is it the Red Bull side, the Austrian side? Is it the Tyone side? It's just... Why would Max... have any belief that 26 they're going to offer him not even it's about a competitive package, but some basis to build and develop on. Aston Martin have got a Honda, they've got a works engine deal essentially. Mercedes are Mercedes, and inevitably they will find their way back up there. They've never even though they've had bad years recently, it's not like they've done a Sauber and they're the back of the grid. So it's a mess. It's gone more, certainly, certain news stories earlier in the year about Christian, like it's certainly gone more visibly wrong. And maybe that's because we have more access to these teams than ever. It's quite the fall off though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if there was like one team to do a Succession like show about, you'd pick them for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
That's number one on the bucket list. Now, speaking of Succession-like teams, people are talking about Max maybe going to Aston Martin, and I just don't understand how that squares with the Lance Stroll. How does that work? How does Max Verstappen go to Aston Martin? Like, isn't this whole project, as I understand it, win Lance a world championship? Which I guess I like. You maybe could you. In order for that to happen, we've talked about this. Newey has to build. Daddy has to build. Sonny Boy. Daddy has to build Sonny Boy.
Blood, sweat, and tears. Just Lawrence in the factory, just boring out cylinders.
Look, exactly. He's got to build like a 2023 level Red Bull for his son, and then you got to put me in the car next to him. That's his only shot. So I don't understand. So this idea that they're going to hire Max Verstappen seems kind of counterintuitive, no?
I mean, look, it really does depend on how much power Honda have, which I'm assuming is a fair amount, because again, this is a works deal exclusive for I can't remember how many years, but I think it's 3-4 years minimum exclusivity. Yeah. You've also got the broader board at Aston Martin, because obviously Lawrence, yes, but it's not just him on his own. Like, there are other people at the table.
Did you watch the Drive to Survive? It is him on his own.
Well, that's what they like to put in Drive to Survive. In reality, there are plenty of other people with big wallets at the table. Okay. So, I mean, because look, you've got to add Yuki Tsunoda into this conversation. We've got Alonso, Verstappen, Stroll, Tsunoda. You know, what's going to happen to Yuki? There was a time where it felt like, oh, well, Yuki to Aston Martin as soon as this Honda deal signed. Well, that feels like an inevitability. And I'm sure, you know, Red Bull are giving one of their seats to a driver that they're never going to promote to Red Bull, because Christian Horner, I mean, he avoids talking about Yuki at every possible opportunity, it seems. So they've got, but yet they're using a seat that they could be developing the next best thing, because Max is probably going to fuck off somewhere else. Like that they must be making it very commercially viable for Red Bull to keep Yuki in that seat.
What do you attribute Yuki's purgatory to? Is it like Helmut's like, I want him, Christian's like, I don't, and then it's like, well, fine, I guess he just stays here forever. Is that kind of what that's my interpretation of what's happening?
I don't know. I feel like, is Yuki does he have that kind of commercial aspect first and foremost, just in terms of
yes,
like
yes, give the kid a shot. Look at our Shopify. He's that kid does numbies.
Oscar Piastri's mother's favorite driver is Yuki Tsunoda.
Listen,
that's all you need to know.
I love Yuki as much as the next guy, right? Formula 2, he was sick. Like, I think he's quality. But does he have that brand to align specifically with Red Bull? I think Daniel Ricciardo was.
Is Max Verstappen out there kissing babies? Excuse me.
Is that Red Bull's brand to kiss babies? You know, is that Red Bull's brand to kiss babies? I don't think it is.
He's not. Max Verstappen. They don't hire Max Verstappen because of his his charm. They hire him because of his speed. So it's like you gotta have at least.
And that's what I mean about like.
Yes, destroy Daniel Ricciardo's career, and he's about to destroy Lawson's chances at a Red Bull seat. And DeVries.
Daniel Ricciardo is the perfect Red Bull guy from just a personality standpoint. But okay. So
I think the bigger reason for Tsunoda is probably stuff that we're not cognizant to as fans, where it's like, how does he work with the team? How does he inspire, belief in Faenza? We know that since he's moved to Faenza from the UK, it seems to have improved. That's my problem. He seems to have worked on a lot of these things and isn't getting credited for it. But then maybe he's just getting caught up in this helmet.
He did use his car as a weapon in Bahrain, which was interesting.
Which, you know what? That's a very good point. And I was pissed with Yuki when he did that. I was like, bro, you've done so much to undo this reputation, and you act like a fucking petulant child. Like, why are you doing this? So disappointing.
I was so disappointed in my son.
That was wild.
But that was so long ago. That was ages ago. But I'm getting back to Aston Martin for just one more second. Okay, let's say you're the number 2 guy at Aston Martin. You're a Honda executive, or you're another guy with a big wallet. How are you going to walk? How are you walking in that boardroom and saying to Lawrence Stroll, you're going to walk in there with, I don't care how many billions you got invested of your own money, you're going to walk in there and be like, hey, can we talk about Lance? Like, how do you even have that conversation with Lawrence? With Lawrence, how do you even do that?
Maybe that's one in the toilets where, like, Lawrence, is in the cubicle next to you, and you just kind of put a little bit of toilet roll under there. Just Lance question mark. Just
you hide your vegetables with that. No, I think the Lance is just here for until Lawrence literally does not have, whether he has it in himself or he has like his proxies, he has his people that are like, no, you vote the way that I vote. Like he's a huge reason that Adrian Newey. I mean, I think you gotta believe that he was one of the main people who got that deal even done in the first place. So maybe part of that, well, that's what's giving them the chance to even win the championship is securing.
Well, Newey said, like, I'm going because like I like the fact that there's one guy in charge. That was the implication, right? And then what he's basically not with the implicit thing that he's saying is like, at Aston Martin, I know who's in charge. There's one guy making the decisions. But at Red Bull, it's like 9 different cooks in the kitchen. It's political warfare, and I needed to get out of there. So I think from what I was reading between the lines, it seems like Lawrence has control of that team.
Yeah, and he takes the most active role ultimately, and he bought Racing Point or Force India before he then took over Aston Martin Lagonda, the car brand, and then was like, all right, makes sense to slap the logo on the race team. I think the only driver that even Lawrence Stroll can't say no, surely, to Alonso Verstappen as a lineup and then move Lance to WEC, because they've got this new WEC project that they're throwing loads of money at. Like, surely that is an opportunity to move Lance over, and not necessarily Lance can like spearhead this World Endurance. You got Hyundai joining WEC as well. You got all these big brands going into WEC. That's a huge thing. That is the only way. But surely you can't say no to Alonso Verstappen, even though that's your son. Like, bro, just for a season.
This is what we want to believe. We all want to believe this, and I think we just all need to swallow the bitter pill that I don't think that would. I think that the whole thing is for Lancey Boy to win a championship.
Do you know how many like portfolios Jared Kushner was in charge of in the United States, and he was not even Trump's son. He was his son-in-law. Okay, we're not going to get into politics, but
what is a guy? What is a guy like Lance Stroll? Just like, you know, you've been a fan of this sport for longer than we have. We came into this through Drive to Survive. We're Americans. This wasn't like a part of our childhood. We were almost turning 30 when we became fans of this thing. So we were already like bitter, and we were like, the world sucks and it's evil, and there's the haves and the have-nots, and there's not fair, whatever. And then Formula One was like, oh wow, a sport that just is so upfront about that's what this thing is. I wonder for you, I don't know your entire history, but I have to imagine that you've been following this since you were pretty young. Like, how do you swallow that? Like, what do you make of a Lance Stroll in this world and the kind of lack of, fairness of Formula One?
Yeah, look, I think it's something that you just accept as an inherent part of it. Obviously, like my first memory is that West McLaren, like Hakkinen in like 98, 99, 2000, that kind of era. That's my earliest memory. And then I always wanted to go kart. Like I wanted to be a racing driver. That was what I wanted to do as a kid. And it's just so out of the question. Like I'd go karting maybe once, maybe like 2-3 times a year. Like a track that's like an hour drive away. Like it wasn't until you get a bit older you start to understand, like, oh yeah, that's why all of these kids who make it are born of privilege. I mean, even to be honest, even Behrman and Antonelli, like they come from a lot of money if you look into like the finances of their parents and the support that comes in. So there's very, very few drivers who make it from relatively like low income. It's what Fernando, Esteban, Lewis are probably the best examples on the grid right now.
Kimi Räikkönen.
And, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Vettel didn't come from much.
Vettel. Yeah. Vettel was fairly. Look again. It's just.
I think it's harder now than it used to be. I think back in the day with Michael Schumacher and those guys, like you could have less money, and. But Gunther seems to think that the pay drivers are going away. Like, Zhou is probably going to be out of his seats. Latifi's gone. I mean, you don't have those Mazepins as much anymore. And I think the levels.
You just have the final Donkey Kong boss of Lance Stroll.
I feel like we almost need like another term, because like pay driver. When you say pay driver, the implication is that they're there because of their money. And they don't have the talent, right? That's
right.
Like, yeah,
correct.
But there are drivers like Ollie Behrman, Kimi Antonelli, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri as well, who all come from parents who own multi-million pound businesses, and yes, they are there on merit because they've been able to afford, but these drivers they could do more testing than all the other kids because their parents could afford to rent out the tracks and do all this stuff. Like, so the privileged background, they've still got the ability, and that's what makes Lance frustrating, because he had every privilege you could possibly throw at a driver, and he's got to F1 and he's not as bad as people make him out to be, but he's just not like a Max or a Lewis, is he? Like he's not ever going to get there because he's been here long enough. So you almost need like that is the problem. That is why you're not getting drivers from, because it is so pay to win in these junior formulas. You can get a new engine, new tyres, new everything, every single race. You're going to have an inherent advantage compared to the other kids who've got one engine for the whole season because they can't afford another one.
Yeah, we talked to Liam Lawson, and he was talking about how he was like he was just like losing every race in karting, and then his dad was like, "All right, like I'm getting you a new engine, like, this sucks financially, but like so you better make this one work. And then he dominated. And then it was like, okay, this is worth our time. Like, we will make these sacrifices. I think they had to sell their house.
His parents don't own their home anymore.
Yeah, they had to sell their house in order to fund his karting. Yeah. So I think, like, yeah, you get those types of moments as well. But yeah, I think when we say pay driver, we don't mean like there's nepo babies in Hollywood. Some of them are very, very talented, and some of them are not. You know what I mean? And you have a easier time digesting the really talented ones.
Also, I think there's a difference between, okay, this guy got paid for the best facilities, best trainers, best equipment, and won everything, and now is, because of his privilege, in the best position to get a seat, versus like this guy had all those things, had all those advantages, took 9 years in F2, and then his parents just bought him a seat. I think that's 100%. A nuance.
And that's why I think there almost should be a different, like, because I feel like a lot of the time that gets kind of a bit conflated. I would recommend, if you're another podcast guest, Rob Smedley, ex-Felipe Massa performance engineer, he started the Global Karting League, which is really interesting. He's basically, it's in the UK at the moment, but he's expanding it into the US and other territories. And I think he's basically taken like over 90% of the costs out of it, and it's outdoor karting, and he's just built a system that it's still, £4,000, £5,000, £6,000, $8,000-9,000 a year, but it's way more accessible. It's not 100K, it's not 250K.
That's like nothing compared to
exactly.
Wow, that's amazing.
100%. And look, it's steps. I think it's always inherently going to be more expensive than picking up a basketball or picking up a football or whatever, right? Of course it is. It's always going to be more so, but I think the sport can do more. The broader sport can do more, rather than just all this money funneling into these, kart companies. Like, it is crazy. It is out of hand.
Oh, so you think there's like some real elite corruption at the top?
Oh, mate, no question.
Who is public enemy number one? Who do we not like?
Listen, I'm not going to name names, right? I'm going to say heavy dose of allegedly
He's already told us where he lives, dude.
I didn't know that there was I didn't know enough about this, but apparently there's big oil, big tobacco, and big karting.
Big cart. Look, financially, it makes sense for, at the top, when you've got, all of this money going around, and all of these, whether it's through rich family or whether you've got sponsorship that can pay the bills. Like, of course, it makes sense for them to try and keep it expensive and buy new tires, because these are people operating at the absolute top of society who have you wouldn't 10K for a new engine. Oh yeah, do it. Like, there's nothing to me. That's like money at the back of the sofa. So it's in their best interest to keep it.
So what Smedley's probably doing is he's trying to make these karting things more spec, more like
100%, more spec. Yeah, exactly. And he's literally cut the cost by 90-95%. It's really impressive.
That's amazing. Vegas, we have to tell you about our new partner, Dollar Shave Club. You know what? I need a shave, and I'm going to be using Dollar Shave Club's razors to do that. But I'm not going to lie, I thought that Dollar Shave Club would just be razors, but they do so much more. They said it's an amazing package filled with everything that you need for your grooming. Everything from deodorant to chafing spray that honestly has been very useful. It's hot in New York right now, and I just spray that all over the area where sometimes I chafe, and guess what? Chafing gone. Whether you're going from smooth shaven or maintaining a beard, Dollar Shave Club offers shave and grooming products that are always high quality but never overpriced. You're going to want to try their top sellers that are going to make your grooming routine feel like a spa day, like the Club Series 6 blade razor. I'm going to use that later today to get rid of this scruff. It's going to be gone, and I'm using the amazing Club Series 6 blade razor. It's like a mini vacation for your face with 6 stainless steel blades and vitamin E infused lubricant strip. This razor delivers the closest, most comfortable shave imaginable. It's so comfy, your skin might just want to take a nap after. Plus, The precision trimmer is perfect for those little important detail areas. But don't take our word for it. Try it for yourself. Dollar Shave Club products are now available everywhere, so you can get your order from their website, Amazon, or you can get them at your favorite retailer near you. You can also go to their site right now for 20% off, $20 or more, and get your products delivered right to your door. Visit dollarshaveclub.com and use promo code REDFLAGS for 20% off, $20 or more. And always remember, however you shave, Dollar Shave Club is here to help you stay handsome. Yeah, and if that could be the standard, and Formula One's making it's billions. I mean, they're making money hand over fist. There's tons of money there, and for it to be. It's like we just had Susie Wolf on. She was talking about F1 Academy and kind of like, the teams supporting that, the teams being like, this is important to us. We want to support this. But ultimately, how you get a female driver in F1 is it has to start at the karting level. It has to start when they're kids. And if there can be like spaces and tournaments and leagues, whatever you call it, that can be more egalitarian, that could be more just like open to everyone. And a little bit more of a fair playing field, and all of a sudden you open the doors for different and better talent to make their way through.
We better change the subject before Big Karting comes after us. Big Kart comes after us.
That's right. Oh shit! There's a knock at the door. I just get shot and I'm bleeding out onto the pod. Wait. So we're talking about this next generation. A big storyline this year is the rookies. Mm-hmm. That it's kind of, there's been a changing of the guard. The snake is shedding its skin here. You've got all these guys like coming up, especially with someone that we weren't expecting with Colapinto. How are you seeing this? And in terms of what you've been seeing, maybe like in F2, where do you see this next kind of crop of great drivers? Who are you seeing as those guys right now?
You know what, like F2 has really messed things up because it's new chassis this year, and Prema struggled and still fully haven't got on top of that. You've got Colapinto, who was 7th in F2 after Spa, which was his last F2 race, and then he gets an F1 opportunity, and straight away he looks like, wow, this kid's like really good. So it just means
a mockery of F2.
What about Maloney, who's he's like 3rd in F2. He got dropped by Red Bull. He's with Sauber now. He's like, but no one's talking about him for a potential Sauber seat. You've got Bortoletto, who could go back to back, and he's part of McLaren, and maybe Sauber are thinking about him, but who knows? Like, it really does. The correlation is the thing, isn't it? In the same way that a driver can go from, like, Pierre Gasly's a great example, really good at Toro Rosso, absolute shocker, stinker in Red Bull, goes back to Toro Rosso, really good again. Like, being good in an F2 car does not necessarily correlate to being good in an F1 car. Certain drivers just excel with everything they drove, whether it's Verstappen, Leclerc, Piastri, and they're like dead sets. But I think Colapinto is proving that it's actually really hard for these young drivers to showcase, because there's so much, like, if you get lumbered with a bad team or you get a great team, it might inflate your numbers as well.
See, in the NFL, it's the NFL, the draft process is crazy, and they rarely get it right. Even that's crazy. But at least in the NFL, they have a combine where all the guys, they show up, they do the same drills, they have the same cones, they run the same distance, and it's like, okay, well, we know how high this guy jumps. We know how fast this guy runs a 40. We know his 3-cone drill. We know his shuttle. Like, they know his vertical leap. They get like some objective facts, like, on paper on these guys, and it just feels like Formula One is so subjective. You're like, well, like, he lost to this guy but beat that guy, so now I'm like, you're just comparing him to one other person at a time. It's very hard. It's so subjective already. Is there a way that we can make F2, F3 more objective so we could stop missing on these guys?
I don't think there is. I really don't. Again, Ricciardo, love that 2014 Red Bull. Oh my, like, it was perfect for his style. It's like the current, like, Red Bull, it wouldn't fit Ricciardo anywhere nearly as well as the old one, because they're still just fundamentally different. It's like that rookie that rookie test that they've said now isn't going to happen until 2020. Right. Well, the rookie race, sorry, not test, race. Yes. They've pushed that back to 25. That would be a good opportunity because it's in the team's best interest to be like, well, hang on, like we could have a driver who wins F3, F2, gets into the F1 team, and then flops. Like that could well happen. I mean, you look at good example, Logan Sargent. In F3, he went toe-to-toe with Piastri and Pourchaire, right? We know how good Piastri is.
It was his second year. It was his second year.
Right? What, in F3?
It was...
In F3 or F2. When they went toe-to-toe, I was Logan's second year and Oscar's first year.
Was it?
I think.
What, Logan did Logan do 3 years in F2?
He F3, did an extra year in F2. In F3, remember, he went back 1 year.
Yeah, he was at Charouz.
That was his big wound. That was his big trauma, was that he had to redo F3 because he didn't have the money one time.
Yeah, so he did 2 years in F3 and then F2.
He did 3 complete years. He did three complete years.
Okay. He did 3 complete years in
F3.
And then he did one year in F2.
The one with Logan, sorry, the one with Piastri was his second of those 3 years.
Yeah, that makes sense. But and again, like F1, he was nowhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of Williams and being nowhere, how fucked do you think Alex Albon is?
Well, I'm sure you're aware, lads, that I'm a big fan of Alex Albon. He is my favorite.
No, I'm not. Who are you?
Well, we were trying to figure out where your where your loyalties lie. Is it you're an Albon guy?
No.
Wow.
You're the one. You're the one. I know he's very popular. No, he's very. A lot of people like him, but I wouldn't say he's anybody's. He's very he's got a high approval rating, but I wouldn't say he's everyone's favorite driver. He's probably a lot of people's second favorite driver. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he wins a championship not by winning any races, but by getting a lot of podiums. You know what I mean?
King of the P2s.
Why is he your favorite driver?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me this. They're like, why do you follow Alex? Okay, so, well, in part, he grew up fairly close to me. He's not that far away. But
Impossible.
Then,
he's a Thai driver.
Well, there you go.
He grew up in Thailand, actually. Yeah.
I think, you know what? I think for me with Alex, I think he's really he seems really normal. I think he just seems like a normal kid who's just got this talent. He's really good at driving cars, but I think he comes across as so relatable and normal. And I don't know, maybe it reminds me of some people I used to grow up with or whatever. I don't know. He's got that character wise, and
he's got
also,
the chat. He's got the chat.
He's got the chat, right? He's definitely got the chat, but also his story is one of, Toro Rosso did well against Kvyat, got that promotion, did really well at the end of 2019 alongside Max. That was his
mother went to jail.
Period.
I mean, that was earlier.
If you want to go that far back, that's a true arc, right? It's a true story arc from Alex,
right? Yeah.
And then obviously gets handed his P45 on a platter by Max Verstappen, and that was a tough season. But I supported him throughout it. He has that year out, and then almost at Williams, he's had this kind of renaissance. He's come back. I like that. I like that character arc and the ups and downs. That's something I feel more motivated to support Alex when he went back to Williams than I ever did. That really kind of supercharged my support for him,
Well, I guess I was the meanie. I was the mean guy. I was the old man yells at cloud saying, everyone's saying, well, look who's laughing now. Look how good Albon is. I'm like, and I was just saying, can he go up against someone who's not Nicholas Latifi or Logan Sargent? Can we just get that?
It's very fair, Matt. It's very fair. It's a very fair point.
Were you stressed about that? Were you like, is this built on a house of cards here?
So what you say about I really don't know how this is going to go, because you're right. He's not. He's very unproven. I think it's fair to say, because he did well against Kvyat. He did well against Max in 2019, but then since then we've not had a yardstick. We've not had a benchmark. So I think having someone to push him more, I think could possibly get more out of him. He either sinks or swims against Carlos Sainz. And you're 100% right. I get why the jury's out on Albon. Absolutely. Because I can't just sit here and be like, oh yeah, he's sick. He's as good as Lando and George and all these guys. I can't. Yeah. How can I say that? Because we've not seen, again, any kind of benchmark since 2019, which was 5 years ago. I hope he's developed and improved since then. But I just don't know. I can't say for sure, and I think we'll learn a lot in the next 15 months.
Yeah, I think this the Colapinto thing has definitely scared him. It's definitely woken him the hell up. I think that he's been sitting pretty the last couple of years. But Carlos Sainz will be a true test. I mean, because if there's anything that guy is, it's consistent. Yeah.
You went from being garbage to having this embarrassment of riches. Now you're like Michael Scott in Casino Night, right? Remember Michael Scott with Casino Night? Remember that episode?
Oh,
he can't get a date. This guy can never get laid, and now he's got 2 women showing up to Casino Night. That's James Vowles right now. It's like he's got too many dates for too few seats. What does he do? What does he do, Tom?
Yeah, I bet he's a good-looking bloke, James Vowles. So I think I'm not surprised. Look, I think that. Look, he's got belief in Alex. Beyond Colapinto coming in, like, he wouldn't have backed Alex the way he did if he didn't believe that Alex is... And, you know, James Vowles has worked with tons of drivers over the years. So he wouldn't back Alex. And that's, I guess, the most confident assertion I have of Alex is listening to someone like James Vowles talk about him. Because why would... Like, James would just find someone else. Like, if he didn't believe in Albon, why would he...
Who is he going to get?
Well, at the time, he was, you know, now with Colapinto coming in and showing this pace and what we've seen from other people.
Yeah, because he was looking at the data, which was saying, "Oh my God, he's so much faster than Latifi," or "Oh my God, he's so much faster than Sargent." He's a data guy, right?
Yeah, but James Vowles has worked with Hamilton. He's worked with Schumacher. He knows how to spot a driver with ability, and maybe he gasses Albon up a bit more than I don't know, right? Maybe that he is being genuine and honest, but I'm sure that James is able to understand, all right, whether this guy is actually material, and you know, when he says, "Oh, he can fight for world titles," like, does he believe that? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But like, I think to use Alex was the yardstick, right? That was the guy that they're going to write. We're going to bank on Alex for the future. And Carlos Sainz has seen enough in this project to believe in it. So
you're the British guy. Can you explain this mystique around this garbage team that's been that's just sucked for years? Like, why are they not constantly put into this like, it's like, wow, Sauber really sucks. You know, Stake really sucks. I'm like, well, Williams has been bad for years.
I just see Williams in 2019. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. 2019 was appalling. They didn't even have a car ready for testing.
But they haven't been good for years. So why do we think just because of James Vowles like looks the part and Williams was good once and they just have a better vibe? I think they're skating by vibes. I really do.
It plays on the nostalgia. That's why DeRilton kept the name. I think when they took over, they kept the Williams name. I think that was a smart play. They've got a big facility. Like, they might be using Excel spreadsheets, right? But they've got a big facility. They've got the infrastructure is there. But then you could say the same. I mean, Sauber have had an unreal facility for years now, and they've not used it because it's been the investment's not been there. And I think Williams has been exactly the same. But I think the resurgence of McLaren does give some like belief, whether that's right or wrong, like that it can be done, because McLaren were absolutely nowhere in like.
But they have a new wind tunnel. They actually have like all that new stuff hooked up, right? Whereas I don't think Williams does.
The Williams, they kept the name, but it's just like there's something that feels really icky to me about like Claire. There's not a single Williams at Williams, and
McLaren isn't there anymore.
He's not, but Bruce McLaren started this company to like go forward. You know, it wasn't like, you know, when Ron Dennis was running McLaren, he wasn't a McLaren. You know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily just the family. It feels different to me. You know, I just, there's something to me that it's playing on the heartstrings because they've got the name, but it gets kind of the nostalgia boost when I'm like, wait. Claire Williams is like, my biggest regret is selling this team. Like, this is, if I had been able to last one more year, I would have like not had to sell it. And it's, you know, and it's an investment group in New York that owns it. I mean, I don't know.
Bring her back. Bring her back.
Yeah. Bring her back, dude.
No, that'd be great as like a consultant. I think Claire Williams would offer a lot to that team. I think with McLaren, that has become like it's an automotive maker, like outside of F1. I think Williams is still like it's still seen as this kind of plucky, kind of independent team, and it's not it's not the truth for any of these teams anymore. Even Haas, Gene's got a lot of money, and it's a big organisation. So I just feel like. I think they obviously play up to past glories because, they haven't achieved anything of any success for so long now. But they are the second. I think McLaren will match them if they win the Constructors this year. But right now, they're the second most successful team in terms of Constructors titles in F1. So there's something to be said for that. And again, I almost feel similar towards Williams as I do about Albon. Like, I do really like Williams because I like the idea of this team that used to be... I mean, even before my time, whenever I've watched Williams, they've always been a bit mid. So it's like,
Tommo, are you just a hipster? Right. Feels like you just like the
maybe.
I like Williams and Alex Albon. You probably never heard of them.
Maybe you've exposed me.
What was your favorite driver growing up?
When you were a kid?
Oh no. Okay.
Was he another deep cut?
It was Mika Hakkinen because everyone liked Michael.
That you are countercultural.
Yeah, you go against the grain.
You can learn a lot about a person based on who their favorite driver is.
Yeah,
and you like the sensitive, sweet Mika Hakkinen. You're like, I don't like this mean Lego-headed German. Mika
Hakkinen's so not Lego-headed.
Yeah,
he's
with his baby blonde hair,
wavy.
Yeah,
you're like, it's interesting. Yeah, like. Yeah, everyone liked Lando and George Russell in that F2 season, but my guy was Albon. Did you watch that season, that F2? When the three of them were kind of going after it.
Yeah, so that was 2018 was the kind of year that I really got into started to get into the junior formulas. So, I mean, to be honest, it was middle of 2019. It was when Alex kind of got the Red Bull seat that is when I really started to be like, okay, this guy's a rookie and he's in a top team, which is not something you see very often. Like even Max had like a year and a bit in a Toro Rosso before he was chucked in at the deep end at Red Bull. So yeah, look, maybe that's just what I do. Maybe that's just how I roll, boys. Maybe.
I like it. Hey. We like to no, you're not fraud. No, you're not fraud. You're just this is it's interesting to know where you gravitate, what gravitational forces work on you. In the beginning, we loved Pierre Gasly, because for that same reason, we're like this guy, he got fucked over, but now he's back at this other team and he wins in Monza, holy. But then he kind of, I feel like he lost that spark. He lost that kind of fuck you competitiveness, and he just kind of enjoys he just enjoys the lifestyle is kind of how it feels. But I think I think his days might be numbered. I think he might be done kind of soon.
Do you think, Jack, how do you evaluate this kid doing? How do you rate him?
Look, I think Alpine should have enough data to, because he's been with them for a long time now, to know how he will stack up against Ocon, against Gasly, like relatively speaking, like how much of a replacement. And there's a reason they picked him. So I think Jack's quality. I think he comes across really well. He's obviously done a lot of media stuff, kept himself kind of front and center, which I think was smart. And because having that brand off track is so important to these teams. I mean, that's part of the reason why Lando is such gold dust to McLaren, because he gives them so much on and off track. So yeah, I'm very optimistic about doing. Actually, I think he'll be very decent.
I didn't like doing it. I was like, can we get another guy interviewed? I was getting a little tired of Jack Doohan's interviews.
He was like on every single post race.
How did they? He was being forced down my throat. I was like, can we get a Fittipaldi in here?
Can we get a Fittipaldi? Because he's cute. And he's got the family. There's a name there. I mean, Fittipaldi does too, but it's maybe like a little bit less. But I'm watching the Mr. McMahon documentary on Netflix about Vince McMahon, which is fantastic. But one of the things was that they wanted The Rock to be like the guy because he came from this legacy family. And the more they shoved the Rock's the guy and he's awesome, the more they shoved him down their throats, everyone was just like, fuck The Rock. We hate The Rock. You want us to like him. We don't like him. And he only really, and I think this actually speaks, we talked about your fandom. This speaks to maybe Matt and my fandom. People only started liking The Rock when he turned heel and he started like being a bad guy. And then people loved him. And I think for Matt and I, like, I want Lando to become evil.
You want him to join NWO.
I want Lando, like, I wanted, you know, the evil part of me was like, yeah, don't give the place back to Oscar. Like, just turn on everyone.
Be that wanker. Be a wanker.
Be that fucking wanker, dude. Like, do it. And I think, you know, like, Colapinto throwing it up the inside this last race, and, like, it just showed, like, I don't give a fuck. And I think that, like, kind of wide-eyed, like, this guy's a psycho energy is something that Matt and I gravitate
for us, you know, a lot of people have zodiac sign. Like, what's your sign? For us, it's like, who are your favorite drivers? Because to me, that says, when you say my favorite driver is Albon, I go, like, that says something to me. Now,
you judge me.
No, I don't. No. The only people I judge.
It's just you.
No. I'll judge you if you say like Esteban Ocon or something. I'll be like, whoa, dude. I'll judge an Esteban Ocon fan. Or Lance Stroll,
Ocon's kind of. I think on the other side of honestly, I think on the other side of Matt's disgust for Esteban Ocon, there's actually a lot of love there.
Dude, I think he knows who I am, and he gave me the most dirty look I've ever seen. Because I slander him all day.
Hang on a second, Matt. Hang on a second. I've got to say, right? So Alex is my favourite driver, but then on the next tier down, Ocon's there, mate. He is.
Oh,
he is.
Why?
What do you like about Ocon?
Why?
Right. So. For me, and again, this plays more into what we look for from sports people, right? What I look for is like struggle and like personal story, and the sacrifice Ocon had to make and his family had to make,
self-pity, of course,
to get to where he is. Right, literally, he's completely outside of his personality character. For someone of his backgrounds to make it to Formula One is a fucking miracle. Like,
and it's a miracle he's not more likable. Like the fact that he's been through that much, his story is that compelling, and he still comes across as he does is
well. It's because sometimes on your church, you don't necessarily come out clean and cookie cutter. Sometimes you come out like with a lot of sharp, ugly edges.
I interrupted you, but
and that's real. I agree. And that's so real.
I agree that his story is compelling.
It's real. It's real. It's so. No, the thing is, right? Like you go watch, Matt. Go watch back every time Ocon and Perez came together, and you tot up how many times it was on Checo and how many times is Esteban. Because I reckon more of them were on Checo, honestly. And Checo's got a massive fan base. Then he goes alongside Fernando Alonso, and true, he acts like a bit of a wanker sometimes. But we got Esteban Ocon we got Fernando Alonso who's your teammate, who's like one of the greatest of all times. Elbows out a bit. Like, sometimes you've got to do that, right? And of course, yes, Alonso's got a massive, passionate fan base as well. And I think he's gone alongside these drivers who have huge, huge fan bases, and rightly so. And he's been that guy, and he's been the unpopular one who's got his elbows out and driven. Because, you know, when he was a kid, when he was karted, he was having to drive like for everything because he knew that his family were putting everything online. And I don't think he ever lost that mentality. And I think if he'd have leveled that out a bit, because he does go too far. I get it. He does go too far sometimes. But I think that's where it comes from. It comes from this struggle and this story, and that's what I love about it.
Okay.
The opposite of love isn't hate; it's indifference. And I think that in the vehement, there's something about Ocon that on the other side of that, maybe he behaves in a way where you're like, it's almost like you want to behave that way, and then he just does it, and you go, what are you doing, dude?
Well, it's the narcissism probably for me of small differences. Like, I probably identify with him. I probably would act similarly. Yes. You know, he's just such
totally.
He's so transparent. He's so transparently like, woe is me. There's a self-pity.
And like an angry at people and just kind of like, this is bullshit. It's like
there's such a self-pity there that I have for myself that that I'm now trying harder and harder. It took me a while to realize like how fucking unsatisfying, how fucking rough that is to be around. And I'm like I hate, and I grew up around a lot of self-pity, and like I could tell he feels so bad for himself, which he does, but it's just like, dude, you're in Formula One.
If I had to guess, I would say I think he carries. Yeah, I think he carries. I can understand fundamentally, right? Coming from, again, he knows that, you know, the sacrifice that had to be taken by his parents, right? And that in itself is a degree of privilege, right? Because to sell your family home and then just go into a motorhome and just drive around Europe for years, like, that is, you literally, like, they sold everything, right? And then to go against all of these kids who come from privilege and it's nothing to them to have new engines and all this, like, I think that cultivates a mindset and an approach that we're seeing today. And I think if you work
poison, it fills you with fucking poison and resentment, and all the things that I have in my life. So maybe, yeah, I hate it. I hate myself. I hate Ocon. I hate myself.
Well, he reminds you of you, Matt. We found the answer.
There it is, dude. It is weird that his best friends are Lance Stroll and Mick Schumacher, though.
Yeah.
That is bizarre. It's strange bedfellows in that way for him.
How could he be in the same room as Lance Stroll?
He does kind of represent everything on the other side of the coin of him, but we digress. Oh, I'm glad we made this breakthrough. Thank you for being here for our therapy session, Tom.
I'd like to think I hit it behind a little bit more charm than Esteban Ocon.
Oh, now Matt's is just spilling. Now he's just I'm not like him, right, guys?
Tell me, please.
Well, this is what we do. We've made a business of this. We've by leaning in. Vankas, the holidays are coming up. You know what that means? You're going to be surrounded by family, and they can stress you out. If you come from a Jewish family like me and Matt, guess what? The cortisol, you're going to develop cortisol face because your family's so freaking stressful. How do you wind down at Thanksgiving? How do you wind down at Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's? You turn to our friends over at CBDMD, more specifically the Delta 9 THC drink mixer. With CBDMD, you could be chiller than that meme of Fernando Alonso sitting in the lawn chair at Spa. You could be Fernando Alonso sniffing the flowers. You could just be blissed out like Fernando Alonso in the year where he was actually getting podiums with Aston Martin. If not, you're going to be stressed out. You're going to be stressed out like Lewis Hamilton with the porpoising car. You're going to be stressed out like Max Verstappen when he says that he can't curse. No. You don't want that. You want to be on your blissful Fernando Alonso wave, and that's what you get with CBDMD. And because we're great guys, you can go to CBD.com and use the code REDFLAGS for 30% off. That's CBDMD.com. Use the promo code REDFLAGS at checkout for 30% off. Now back to the show.
Okay, no. I'm not letting Tommo out here so easy. Who do you not like?
Yeah, who do you
not like?
Who rubs you the wrong way?
Who grinds your gears?
I think the driver I dislike the most is probably Lance, and it's honestly it's not for his background. It's more that he's just so like he comes across in these interviews where he just gives like 1, 2, 3 word answers, like. I don't know. It just stinks of like entitlement. Like there's people trying to do their job, and you're just giving them nothing. And like it is part of the job, and like you're in such a privileged position. Like, and I think he just comes across as really like snarky and muggy, and I don't like it when he does that. It's funny because like in some of the content that F1 put out, like the stuff at the start of the year with the quiz, he's actually quite good energy, and he looks like he could be a bit of a laugh. But then when it's just constantly, he's just giving nothing, and I'm like, bro, it's not much to ask. Like, you've got everything like most people could possibly want in the world. Just fucking get on with it. Like, stop being a little bitch. Like, it winds me up. That winds me up. To be honest,
I guess you don't like Chapel Roan either. You're like, you're a star. What are you so upset about? Chapel Roan hates being asked for things by the media. No, but Lance Stroll's an easy one. Give me a more controversial one. Give me something good. Give me something I can sink my teeth into.
Drivers that I mean, there's certain drivers that I'm just pretty indifferent to. Like, I don't, really register. Like, I think Bottas has come out of his shell a lot, to be fair. I think Valtteri used to be. I think it's nice seeing him living his best life. Have you guys done anything with Valtteri? He seems like good energy.
Nah.
No.
He said it. We got the bottle. We got a bottle of whiskey. We got a bottle of whiskey from him. But
Fred Vasseur gave us a Valtteri Bottas signed hat when I interviewed him.
That's right.
And then we were like, we'd love to do more stuff with you guys, and they were like, no. That's
I just don't have Lance is the only one who annoys me. Like, other than that, I just either or I hope you do well. Like, whatever. I know as well. Like, for me, F1, it's I come from being a soccer, as you would call it, fan. That's my kind of bread and butter, and that's so tribal, and I'm very tribal about my team. But so F1 is kind of a place where I can just kind of get away from that, and I just kind of enjoy it on a more individual merit.
I see. What's your team?
Have a guess. Go on. I want you to guys to have a little guess. You think my team might be? They're a Premier League team.
Of course.
Right.
I mean, I'm just Arsenal.
I don't think it would be.
No,
Chelsea.
wait. Fuck.
I don't think it would be Chelsea because Chelsea's too
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, they're Liverpool.
Fulham?
They're up north. Oh, Fulham's. It's a London team.
Okay.
I forgot. There's one that you're supposed to be if you're
Millwall.
Oh God, no, not Millwall.
I don't even know what these teams are.
That tells you. Surely that should tell you. That should tell you.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna look at the teams. London Premier League.
If I react like that,
Fulham?
that way to Millwall.
Fulham?
No. What's the least,
Arsenal?
The opposite of Millwall. What's the opposite of Millwall?
I don't know.
We don't know this.
Millwall
We don't know
is.
this fucking shit.
Right, do you guys follow golf?
Brentford.
Do you follow golf, lads?
Tottenham.
Golf guys.
Well, I'm a golf guy. I like golf.
Do you know Billy Horschel?
Oh yeah.
Who does he support? Who's on his bag?
God. Okay.
From
golf bag.
You weren't watching the
Crystal Palace.
No. Oh my God! You've said all of them apart from one.
West Ham.
Yes.
West Ham.
I'm wearing claret, lads. Come on.
Okay. Yeah. All right. West Ham. All right.
Of course.
How are they doing? How's it going?
Not great.
Not so good.
No. It's a team that just mediocrity is our game, and I'm not used to success. I don't chase success. It's character building, right? And that's why I go for my drivers in F1 as well, probably.
So would you say they're like Renault?
Oh, that sounds like slander to me.
Well, you said they're mid.
Yeah, but Renault are below mid, aren't they? Surely.
Visa Cash App?
Scraping the bottom of the back.
Yeah, they're V-carb.
West Ham, V-carb hash, I'd say that kind of level. Yeah, V-carb hash.
I want to give credit to Jenny that the first one that she guessed was West Ham.
Come on, Jenny did her homework, boys.
Jenny just spent a month in London, and she thinks that she's fucking. She's really proud of herself. She stayed in Hackney Wick.
Oh, there you go. I used to live in Walthamstow, which is very close to Hackney Wick, actually. But we digress. Have you been to London? Lads? What's your experience with London?
I go to London all the time. My girlfriend is from there, so I go there all the time. And I don't think I ever need to go back, honestly.
We're from New York, so London feels like just a different kind of New York. But I'm a New York kid, so I'm like...
I would say it's beautiful. I love you walk down and you're like, this is so beautiful. I really can't stand especially where my girlfriend is from. I'm like, this is such a trash place to live. It's like if I'll go to a store and it's like you could get pizza, kebab, and shawarma all in one disgusting place. The food there is just horrendously bad. horrendously bad food, the worst food of all time, and it's always like kind of raining but kind of not. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
The weather's definitely tough.
What the hell is happening?
Yeah,
rain or don't rain?
Any English person who tries to defend our food is sorry, like it's just.
Well, the best food is
it's not
Indian food.
Indian food.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, dim sum, exactly.
No, but certainly an English breakfast makes me want to die.
But that's the beauty. In London, you can get every type of food.
Right.
So it is all there. It's just you don't want to eat the English stuff because it just doesn't hold a candle.
Yeah, definitely not.
I just spent a little too long there. You know, I'm loving it. I'm like, get me the fuck out of here.
Though, okay, this was something that we noticed, and maybe we went to Silverstone.
Okay.
We went to Silverstone.
Mm-hmm. We were excited.
Unbelievably incredible race if you're an English fan, right? I mean, Lewis wins there. The temperament and the vibe after was as if Max Verstappen had won. I was like, I was expecting like just
euphoria,
soccer hooligan kind of like, holy fucking shit, like we're not leaving, like a la when Charles won in Monza.
It was
like we were dumbfounded by the kind of tepid response to Lewis's victory after the race.
We ran out of where we were, and we were like ready to get some men on the street, and it was like Ellis Island, poor huddled masses going through the mud, like World War I vibes, like just marching through the mud.
The traffic's gonna be terrible. It was like,
and I guess we did man on the street wherever we go, and it was like everybody. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tommo. Our impression was that the English fans that pride themselves, like that's where the real fans are. Mm-hmm. They're just they're fucking nerds. They're the nerds, like the cool. The fun fans are the soccer fans. And the F1 fans are like, oh, that's like a little too crazy for me. I think I'm going to be an F1 fan. Am I wrong?
In my opinion, Matt, you're absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. You've nailed it. Look, I think Silverstone, it cultivates. You experience going to, a football match over here. Especially, it's a big game, a local rivalry or whatever. I've been lucky. I've been to Manchester United, Liverpool, like doing away games with West Ham and unbelievable atmosphere. In something like Silverstone, it's completely different. I think it's a cool atmosphere, but it's nothing like Monza. Like I'd love to go to Monza. Even like I went Hungary last year. And that was quality. Like there were loads of Lewis fans as well when he put it on pole. That was a big vibe, and it was I don't know. It just felt a lot more visceral and real. And Silverstone is cool. I just don't think it attracts. Maybe it's because it's so expensive. I think it prices a lot of people out, and I think that's a big part of it. I think you're asking so much money from people to go to an event, and you're gonna price out. You're going to price out so many fans. It's going to cultivate a different type of audience, I think, ultimately.
Yeah, I think because we were dumbfounded about that.
Yeah,
especially given the Lewis of it all. Also, if you spend so much money, why not like bum rush the fucking podium? Like then charge.
Lewis Hamilton won in Silverstone, and everyone was like, "Okay, let's go."
We were really shocked. We were really shocked.
Believe it.
Because what's interesting in the U.S. races, Vegas is less like centralized, but like the difference between like Miami and Austin, like Austin has more of just like we're just bum rushing the place. Miami's a little bit more it's kind of like cool, it's vibey. Like there's things to offer there, but it's less. Austin really is kind of like after the race, you can all go onto the track and everyone kind of rushes in, and there's like the masses of the excitement of it, which we were, and I think Silverstone felt like that in terms of just like the location of it. You're kind of in this remote area, a la the Austin race, and then we were bummed.
Austin's the one case. I really want to go to because it really does give that impression. I went to Montreal for the race in 22, and that was really good. Actually, there was a lot of people getting on track afterwards, and it was kind of a nice balance. There was more passion. definitely. I felt more than I do at Silverstone. But at the same time, it wasn't kind of it wasn't those crazy levels that you get at Monza and Austin. That's definitely. I went to Miami as well in 22, and that was an experience because it was just totally different. I mean, I felt after people there weren't even like they weren't looking. They were just there for the event.
It's vibey.
But that's Miami,
vibes.
Isn't it? It's different.
It's kind of become like going to the U.S. Open. It's like, isn't this a cool thing to go to, as opposed to like
a social event to be seen at?
Yeah.
What's nice about Austin too is that depending on where you are, there's certain areas where you can see like a lot of the track.
Yeah.
So you're not just like stuck with your one turn. Like you'll be able to see, like we saw when Alonso like went airborne.
Yeah.
Last year. Off of I think with Lance, right? And like there was that moment. Like we saw them coming around, and then we saw like the development into that like in the distance. Yeah. So you can kind of get a sense of like where everyone is in the part of the track. So that's another. I mean, it's coming up. We're pumped for it. But
yeah, man.
What races have you been to?
Austria is really good. Actually, kind of what you said about Austin. Like I was set up at turn 3, and do you remember it was the sprint last year? So it was raining, and Checo kind of squeezed Max off the track, and then Max kind of just sent it into the. So I was like there for that, and it's such a good, like the view's incredible because you can see so much of the track as well. And so yeah, Austria's like so good. Would really recommend if you guys can get to one in Europe. The ones I've been to in Europe, like Austria's top. Absolutely, yeah. Hungary last year, say Miami, Silverstone, Canada. Those are the ones that I've done so far.
Nice.
Which it's nice to get out and actually like experience these events in person. Obviously for what I do, and I'm sure for what you guys do as well to an extent, sometimes it can make it a bit more challenging trying to kind of juggle it and make it work. And but at the end of the day, like it's really good to get out and actually see these events and hear these cars in person, because the TV coverage is great, but it can also it never fully captures the whole experience, does it?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't. I mean, and neither does the TV. Really, it's really the podcast and the YouTubers that do it.
That's right. That's
really where you get the full picture.
That's
and,
where
and,
it's
absolutely, boys.
And Tommo, where can the people find you?
Where can they find me? Well, search Tommo on YouTube. That's my home. That's the bread and butter. I also do Tommo's Race Chinwag, which is on all good podcast platforms. And yeah, boys, thank you very much for having me.
And you
really
can find you and what's your address again? We could put
it is 17.
Beep. Awesome, man. Well, it's a word from your neck of the woods. Can you honor us with a goodbye, Vankas?
Of course, wankers. Thank you all for listening, watching, wherever you are in the world. My name's Tommo. His name's Brian. His name's Matt. Thanks again. Have a good one.
Goodbye, Vankas.
Yes. Goodbye, Vankas.